Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we are going to go over another Wise Owl product. If you didn't catch my video on using the chalk synthesis paint, that is up in my library, so make sure you go check it out. Today we're going to go ahead and top coat this piece, and although I have used this top coat before on a different piece, I've never used it on top of their chalk paint, so I'm anxious to see how that comes out. So this is the product that we're working with today. And I'm gonna go ahead and use a foam brush to apply this. I just talked about this in my last video that I typically do not cross-contaminate my brushes. I know it's just a weird thing, but I use my Klingon brushes for paint and paint only. But you know what? As a matter of fact, because they recommend using for the best finish a Klingon brush, I'm gonna actually try it. So we'll try on one area with the foam brush, and one area I'll grab my F30 and we'll try and see how it goes on. So this is a water-based product, so it should wash out pretty easily of my Klingon brush, so no worries there. So let's go ahead and get this on. And I probably won't do the entire piece on camera. We're gonna work on the frame right now, and then I'll wait for it to dry and show you guys. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started and see what we get. Okay, you guys, so we're gonna go ahead. I always pour out my top coat into a disposable dish. I just don't like dipping back in, touching a surface, dipping. So I prefer to just put my top coat into a disposable dish and go from there. We're gonna start with our Klingon brush. This feels so strange to me because I normally never use a clear coat with my Klingon brush. So strange. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do this top rung with the Klingon brush, and then we will move on to the second one and we'll use our foam brush. I just wanna see for purposes of finish, if one comes out better than the other. I typically always use a foam when I am top coating, so we're gonna see how this works. Now, when you top coat, my suggestion is this: don't try to lay on a ton of top coat. What I'm doing is putting my brush in there, and then I'm wiping off on the sides, and then I'm going back and applying. So the key is light strokes with, you know, not a ton of product. So I'm done now. I'm not going to keep working this. I'm gonna stop. I got a little corner here I need to cover, and then I'm gonna let this sit because any coverage that I do not have or did not get, I'm gonna get that with my second coat. And I have read that about this top coat, is that they said, you know, look, your first coat, and that's typical with most, but your first coat is not going to give you the 100% coverage. You will pick up on that second coat. So let's go ahead and grab our foam brush now and just see for application purposes and finish purposes if we see a difference. Now, I feel a difference between the Klingon brush and obviously the foam brush right off the bat. This is a firmer foam brush, and I feel like I can put more pressure, which is, you know, nothing to do with the finish. It's just a feel, how I feel putting this on. So I feel like I can be a little more aggressive with this foam brush. I don't know why, but maybe just because I'm used to working with them and I'm not used to working with the Klingon brushes for the top coat. But there is a first for everything, so I want to see. Oh, I'm dripping everywhere, so don't mind me. So just make sure you do like I'm not doing and don't put on a ton of product. I grabbed too much product on my foam brush. It was a little easier to control the amount of product that I grabbed with the Klingon brush than it was the foam brush, because the absorbency is a little different on these guys. They're a little more dense, and they don't absorb as, or they absorb, I can't even talk today. They don't absorb as much because they are more dense and flat, and that Klingon brush will absorb more of the product. So with that being said, you won't drip as much like I just did with the foam brush. So anyway, that is it. We're gonna go ahead and see. I'm just testing it out, seeing how, if there's any difference that we can see. I'll show you guys up close once that first coat is set up, and then we will apply our second coat after that. Okay, so here is the top rung here, which is done with the Klingon brush. This one is the foam brush. And then you can just see the difference in an unsealed piece versus the sealer. Such a difference in just the way it looks, the color change that happens. But just want to show you guys really up close. So this is the Klingon brush. This is the foam brush. They're pretty much even for even, if you ask me. They don't totally look different. I notice a slight difference, and I think my preference is just to keep my paintbrushes and use different brushes for the top coats. But again, just me, and everybody has their own you know, ways that they do things, but I didn't notice a huge difference in either of the applications, other than the foam brush can have a tendency to not absorb as much product and have some drip issues. I had no drip issues with the Klingon brush, so there you go. So we're gonna let that dry, and then we're gonna put our second coat. Okay guys, so while that's drying, let's go ahead and just talk about a couple of things. So first and foremost, this is a satin sheen, this particular one. So if you are not loving that and that isn't your look, definitely research their website. They have many different top coat options. I personally like a satin finish, just a slight sheen to the project, and most of my clientele likes that look too. So, but there are other options if you do like a more matte finish. So check that out on their website. Also, this product particularly, do not thin. It says right on the jar not to thin it. I don't know why you would anyway. It's a very thin consistency, and it goes on very, very easily. So if you do thin it, you may compromise the integrity of the product. You don't want to do that. So I don't think that you would have a need to, but sometimes people ask if you can thin, because you can thin some paints. So there's that. It says to wait till the coat is dry thoroughly before recoating, and most of the times you're going to want a second coat just to get that nice superior even coverage. So I would recommend, it doesn't have an actual time frame on there, but I would recommend waiting a few hours before you recoat. That's just my personal opinion, because a lot of products will put on their specific time frames, and that's usually average for a recoat time with a water-based top coat. You don't want to reapply too soon, because just like with paint, if you start to do that, you're going to have issues. You may have some dragging going on. It wasn't exactly dry, even though it felt dry to the touch. So definitely wait before recoating to make sure that that is dry in between. So anyway, that is it for right now. I am going to go ahead and apply my second coat soon. Once I do that, I'll show you guys that finished area, and then we'll go from there. This is 2 coats with the Klingon brush, and I really like it. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with the rest of the piece. I'm not going to go ahead and do that on camera just because that's incredibly boring and you guys get the gist. So as soon as I have it finished, I will let you take a look at the entire piece. Okay, you guys, here we go. This is the final result of the 2 coats of the satin varnish on the body only. The top, I used a totally different product. It was a stain and finishing oil in one. I will list that in the video in case you're wondering, but that did not require the same top coat. So we're only looking at the body. I'm kind of showing you from this angle so you guys can see the beautiful sheen, and I'll get up close so you can really see how well it goes on. It just beautiful coverage. Wherever you miss on that first coat, that second coat does pick it up, just like they say. So there you go. I'm going to go ahead and put the hardware on now because it's been sitting for 48 hours, and then I will showcase a final picture of the piece in the end.